Hi, this is Atia. So I did the Amazon tribes, and there's about 305 tribes in the Amazon. Their population is about 900,000 people. They have a high death rate and a high birth rate, so their population is small. They don't tend to migrate around that much. Their infant mortality, they don't have the proper equipment to deliver children. They use like natural medicine to deliver their kids. So the death of the mother and child rate is high. They also don't have access. Well, they do have access, but they don't tend to use it to medicine for pre-existing and newfound diseases, which causes the death of their young to increase. Their TFR in 2001 was 7.9, but they don't have any more recent information on it. Their contraceptive rate is low because they don't have access nor want access to modern day needs such as sexual protection. They have access to health care and stuff, but they tend not to use it. And the same thing for education. They don't really want to be found. So those things are there, but they're not used. They can get married at the time whenever they start menstruating. So the average age is 12, 13, 14 years old. Um, their they would have a pyramid for their age structure diagram because their life expectancy is short. And they have economic indicators of things like hunting and gathering so they can like trade and use those resources. And they have child labor. Everyone chips in their communities. So children do work and help around at a certain age where they can do that. So yeah, thank you.
Salam alaikum. That means peace be with you, a common greeting in Pashto, the official language of Afghanistan, which we will be using for stage 2 of our demographic transition model. This is a typical Afghani family. The population of Afghanistan is approximately 36,643,815 as of July 2020. The birth rate of this country is 36.7 births per 1,000, and the death rate is 12.7 deaths per 1,000, which shows an increase in population. The immigration rate of this country is negative 0.1 migrants per 1,000. And the total fertility rate, the amount of children born to each mother, is approximately 4.82 children. The infant mortality rate can be notably separated by gender. The male infant mortality rate is 111.3 deaths per 1,000 live births, and then the female infant mortality rate is 96.9 deaths per 1,000 live births. In terms of contraceptives, the contraceptive prevalence rate of this country is 22.5% as of 2015. The current health expenditure found in Afghanistan is 11.8% as of 2017, and the physician density per 1,000 is 0.28, while the hospital bed density is 0.4 beds per 1,000. This is a typical Afghani girls' school. The school's life expectancy from primary to tertiary education is in total for both male and female 10 years. But as you can see, there is a disparity between the two because male have 13 years while females have 8 years. This is the age structure diagram for Afghanistan. As you can see, for the lower level ages, there tends to be a larger amount of people compared to the higher level ages, meaning that the life expectancy is shorter compared to other countries, while the amount of kids being born is a lot, meaning the country's population is most likely increasing as the workforce is going to end up getting very large, and that is going to be a problem in the future when enough jobs won't be available for the large amount of people being born every day. The shape of this graph is also very characteristic of a stage 2 demographic transition model country, with the wide base and the tapered top. So the median age at first birth among women is approximately 19.9 years. Anyways, moving on to the economy. So the GDP per capita for Afghanistan is approximately $2,000. GDP for the entire country is approximately 69.45 billion. Child labor in Afghanistan is a serious problem. The approximate percentage of children from the ages of 5 to 14 who are working is 7.5%. The amount that's attending school is 41.8%, but the amount that's combining work and school is 4.6%. Some other parameters that help best characterize the situation in Afghanistan and how it's transitioning is the population below the poverty line. It's approximately 54.5% as of 2017. And another parameter that I think is very significant is the amount of internet users is only 13.5% of the population. The overall quality of life in Afghanistan is approximately 163rd on the Legatum Prosperity Index. And such reasons that it's found here is the lack of infrastructure, the limited access to markets, social inequality, historical and ongoing conflict, which is a very big one, and various productivity constraints. There's tons of poverty, child labor, and many other factors that go into why it's 163rd. What caused Afghanistan to come from stage 1 to stage 2 is their emphasis on the economy. They have lots of manufacturing as well as the resources such as oil found in there, since it is a country considered around South Asia, Middle Eastern area. Hey Smita, where are you?
I'm in South Africa. Hey Daphne, do you want to learn about the stage 3 demographic transition model?
Sure.
Okay. South Africa is in the stage 3 demographic model, which means that the death rates are low and the birth rates are decreasing, usually as a result of improved economic conditions and an increase in women's status in education. The HIV/AIDS epidemic has reduced life expectancy, but this has now recovered to 57.6 years. Before, in 1980, it was 56.9. It is predicted to reach 68.8 in 2005. South Africa stands out from many other neighboring countries, but still has some ways it could improve, such as human capital and raising the standard of living. For example, through education and healthcare to reduce inequality and use demographic changes to drive social, economic, and environmental progress. South Africa is the world's largest mining industry. The infant mortality rate in South Africa is 28.5. The population size is 57 million. The total fertility rate is 2.43. South Africa has 3 million immigrants coming into Africa. The death rate is 9.5, and the birth rate is 20. In South Africa, the Constitution guarantees every citizen access to health services. However, not everyone can have the access to private health care. According to the latest General Household Survey, only 17 out of 100 South Africans have medical insurance. As of 2015, South Africa's total literacy rate was about 95%, which means almost 95% of all South Africans could read and write. The school life expectancy in South Africa was reported to be 12 years. As you can see in this diagram, most of the population is from the ages of 25 and 29. You can also see that a lot of the population is from the age of 0 to 19. There are a great amount of births in South Africa, and as you can see, the population decreases as the age group increases. The Labor Department in South Africa estimates that about 1 billion of South African children are working as child labor. The median age at first birth among women is from the age of 25 and 25. The GDP in South Africa is roughly 385 billion. South Africa is also ranked 56 for quality of life. That's about it, Daphne.
That was so interesting.
Bye, Daphne.
I'll see you in China.
Hi, so I did stage 4 and I chose China. So for the population size for China, the size is over 1 billion and the yearly change of the population is by 0.39% increase. The birth rate in China this year increased by 1.940%, and the birth rate increased by 1.972% in the year 2019. The death rate increased by 7.402 in 2020, whereas the death rate increased by 7.261 in 2019. So by these numbers, you can tell that the birth and death rate over the years has started to decrease. And this is due to the fact that adults prioritize their jobs more than having children or getting married. So kids were born more frequently. And migration in China in 2020 was negative 0.299 per 1,000, and it increased by 0.81% from 2019. The infant mortality rate in 2020, there was 9.295 deaths per 1,000 births, and this was a 3.13 decline from 2019. The total fertility rate in 2020 was 1.696 births per woman, and the numbers increased by 18% from 2019. In China, they do use contraceptives to help women give birth to less kids, and usually in China, because there was a one-child policy, now that they changed it to kind of a two-child policy, to have a second child, they had to take IUDs so the child could get an education and have health care. And without it, they wouldn't have that, and they wouldn't have the education that they need. So for healthcare, nearly 95% of China's population did have healthcare, and over the last decade, this is how far it went, and right now it's at 95%. For literacy and school life expectancy, children do have to go to school for 14 years for both genders, and the literacy rates did increase in China because of new policies that they came up with in both economics, politics, and also education. The age at which that people get married in China is usually where males are 27 years old and women are 24. And on average, their age gap is usually 2 years. And the first age at which a woman gives birth to a child is at the age 26. For our age structure diagram, I chose this graph where it shows it from the 1980s and to 2020, where you can see how the numbers of kids started to decrease, and for both genders, because people didn't prioritize having children, so there were more adults and the amount of kids started to decrease, and it's still decreasing. So going back, the economic indicators for China show how in 2020, the growth of industrial and trading warfares were low, so the indicators were really low for China in 2019 and 2020. For child labor in China, the government forbids for kids to work under 16. However, this, because they didn't enforce it as well, this resulted in 10 million children to be working under the age of 16 in China in factories. The transition of the country and the situation is really good right now, and the stage at which China was at before, they transitioned to a stage 4 because of the restrictions of having children, and also because they transitioned to a two-child policy where the ages were easier to maintain, and because of the one-child policy, there weren't enough children, so it was harder for the aging population, but because of the two-child policy, the aging population did become easier. And for overall life quality, over the past few years, it's become stable and more efficient because of more jobs being improved and the structure where people have the opportunity to get money and make a living, whereas before jobs were quite average and it was harder to accumulate money. And then the quality of life will continue to increase because of enhancements in healthcare that they're doing recently, and more job opportunities that people will have